hey, Dad, check this out. Me and Oliver have been playing this game at school, and it is the most fun, and we played it for our whole time during lunch. It's incredible. I got to show you this new game, Dad. This is what Maddox was saying to me yesterday, and I looked down, and he was showing me this little piece of notebook paper that was folded up into a little triangle, and he was like, yeah, we play football with this, Dad, and we flick it and it spins, and you have to land it on the edge of the table, and then you have to kick a field goal. And I was thinking the whole time, man, I've been playing that game since I was like in 4th grade. And he's telling me all the rules and regulations with it and how to be able to do it. And he's telling me, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, son. And then, we watched some YouTube a little bit later. We watched another one of his shows called The Rookie. And hopefully we're going to have one of the stars from The Rookie on the podcast at some point, so my son will think I'm really cool. But he was like, oh, Dad, you up for some finger football? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And so we go into the bathroom, we sit down, and, we lay down on the tile. He sets off exactly where the field is. So there's lines where, when you flick the little triangle football and it spins, and then if it lands on the line, you get a touchdown, and then you have to kick a field goal. Well, I knew this time, like I hadn't played in a while, but like, me and my brother used to play for hours and hours in Vandenberg Air Force Base on the little parquet floor. And so we started playing, and I scored my first touchdown. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm about to show this boy how I do it. And then, you go to kick a field goal, and I kicked the field goal. It was right straight through. And he's like, Dad, how did you do that? How'd you know how to do that? And I was like, boy, I got this, you know what I mean? Like, and then I just tried to act like I was a little humble. And then I scored another touchdown, and I shot it from like, two back. And I said, this one's worth 2 points. And he's like, no, you won't be able to get that one, Dad. And bang, I just nailed it right through. Then I did another one, and I did the whole field, and I kicked a field goal. And he's like, Dad, you're like the greatest. You're such a Sigma. I can't believe that you could do this. And I was thinking in my head, boy, you better never forget this, because this is how I'm going to show you how I do it. And as I was waking up this morning, I went down to the beach, and I was sitting, and I was realizing that, here was this game that my son had thought that he discovered, that, he was going to teach me. And then when he showed me, and I played, I went ham on him. I tell you, I didn't ease up on him. I beat him pretty bad last night. But it was almost like I kicked in. I kicked into that. It brought me back, this nostalgic part. And what God was telling me this morning, he said, I'm patient. I will allow you to go through all the things that you need to go through. I will allow you to, quote unquote, discover something new. And when you discover my wisdom, when you discover my love, when you discover my peace, my joy, that's when I can really start to kick in. So in Proverbs 21 today, it takes us through that and helps us to understand that God is a lot like that situation last night where me as a kid, my son as a kid coming to me saying, hey, this is something new. And God just saying, that ain't new, son. But now that you know it and you're excited about it and you own it, we can start to get down to business. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never know, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Isn't it funny how every single time that we discover something new, then we think that we're the first person to ever come in contact with it. I find this to be true a lot of times with technology. I find it with anything that I get super excited about. And I tend to think, and this is, I don't know if you guys go through this too, but I tend to think that because I found that technology, or I just adopted it, that now I'm the first one. And people tell me like I've been doing that for years, or I've looked at that thing. And I tell you, probably one of the hardest things to be able to do too, is to be able to adapt to something. And I found that this has been true in the last couple of days. I've been working on a new host for the podcast, and just hosting it different. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be on the same platforms. If you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube or whatever it is, it's still going to be there. But we've been switching everything over to Substack, and Substack has been awesome because what it gives us the power to be able to do is I've got a newsletter there that's going out, and it's actually, I'm sharing my handwritten notes from the podcast, and so all the production notes, and what I write, and it's a handwritten note of encouragement and hope and wisdom, and it's in my imperfect handwriting, right? And so I'm sharing that as the newsletter because I want it to be a connection point with every single one of the readers, that I'm sending you a handwritten note. And I tell you, if you've ever done a handwritten note, I would suggest try it today. And here's the challenge. Try a handwritten note to your spouse or to your girlfriend or to your boyfriend or whoever is important in your life. Do that today, but list off some specific things that you think are awesome about them, and then hit me back in the comments with the results of this. I have seen some of the most amazing examples of it. And we did it in our men's group, and I challenged all the guys. I said, write your wife a letter and make sure it's very specific. It's got to be, if it's specific, get even more specific. I had guys come back and say that their wife took the actual letter and framed it. And I was like, okay, did you do it again? And they were like, well, no, I haven't done it. Well, why wouldn't you do it again if you got that great of a response? But it's an amazing one. So this power of handwritten notes for me is so important to me. Well, it wasn't important back in the day, but it was forced upon me. So growing up, if you've heard the story before, bear with me if you haven't heard it. When I was growing up in fourth grade, my dad got involved in a what we call a pyramid scheme back in the day. Now it's an MLM, but it was a millionaire course, and the millionaire course taught you to buy the course for $4,500, of which he didn't have. At the time, he made about $800 a month. So you buy the course for $4,500, you listen to the course, and the course teaches you how to sell that course to other people to become a millionaire. But what was great, I don't know if there was anything great at the time, but one of the million things that he did was... A part of the course was that you had to take 10 pages of notes a day. Well, my dad forced this upon me and my brother in fourth grade. Before I could go out and play, I had to do 10 pages of notes on a millionaire course, listen to these silly cassette tapes. And when I would write, it said 10 pages of notes, but it didn't say how many words you had to write. It didn't say if you could skip lines, all those things. So I just basically made up the rules that hadn't already been established. So I did what I needed to do, the 10 pages of notes, but I skipped lines and I wrote really big, and I didn't have that great of handwriting, and I was very self-conscious of my handwriting, but I knew if I could write big and skip lines, I could go out and play. Well, my brother got mad at me because of this, because he had really nice, neat handwriting, and he would write it really nice, everything like that. And I remember as I went, like, I didn't really care that much. I would be able to go out and play, but I was very self-conscious about my writing. And I remember going to my pops and saying, I feel so weird about my writing. You know, I'm self-conscious of it because he told me to write something. And and I said, Dad, I'm embarrassed of my writing. And he said, boy, that's your art. And he said, it's signature to you. Nobody else can do it like you do it. And I was like, wow, Pop, this is so amazing. And people were like, wow, did you really, dive into your art? And I was like, nah, I just fell in love with it. And then nobody else had a challenge with it. And what I learned in that lesson was most of the time the things that we have challenges with or are self-conscious about, nobody even cares. But once we become okay with them, then nobody has a problem with them anyway, because the only person that did have a problem was us. But that to be said, I started my Substack because I wanted to do a newsletter and I wanted to share my own handwriting, because I wanted people to realize that it doesn't have to be perfect to start. You don't have to be perfect by anybody's standards. It just needs to be signature to you. And so this newsletter is my handwriting, and I'm writing a handwritten note to you. It's on Substack. You can check it in the bio. It's incredible. Now that's a long version here of why I was doing that, but the reason why I was telling you is because, we've been switching everything over to Substack, and it's something new. And in something new, like I got a little self-conscious. My process wasn't exactly the same. And then I started to realize, and God started to help me to realize that, you know what, whenever you start anything or you adapt to something new, you're never going to be great at it. Right. And, with my son, he got this little paper football game. And he was like, yeah, me and my boy, we've been playing for the last couple of days, everything like that. Well, see, I had been playing that for years and years. So when we started playing, I was like, man, I'm going in, and I just started handling him. And what God wants us to realize in this situation is when we discover his love, it doesn't mean that we're the ones that founded it. That love has already been there. We just started to understand it, or it started to become important to us. And then he could start cooking with some gas. And so I want to encourage you, if you are starting something new, don't give up on it. Work it through. It's going to be okay. This Substack thing is incredible. It's, Creative Click that is helping me to be able to do it has been awesome. So you guys have the availability to be able to get the handwritten notes right to you. And I do them on my Remarkable there. But in Proverbs 21 today, I just wrote down that it reminds us that God's patient with us, and when we finally get excited about his wisdom, he will bring out the big guns. You see, I brought out the big guns last night when I was playing this little paper football with my son. I was kicking field goals from like full length field. I was doing all the stuff, and he was like, "Dad, I can't even believe this." And he said to me, he's like, "Dad, you got you're a Sigma." And I was thinking in my head, "Yeah, boy, you better recognize your pop has got game. I should have been in the Hall of Fame." And if you would have saw his uncle, though, his uncle was even better. His uncle used to whoop me in paper football in the hallway on the floor. We used to play for hours. But it's incredible with a relationship with God, because literally, like, he's already got all these things in play, and he's just waiting patiently for them to become, important to us. And once that happens, it's amazing what he can do. So in Proverbs 12, it runs down, and it was interesting to be able to see all the principles that he laid out 3,000 years ago that, throughout our life, and a lot of times we're hard-headed, or maybe it's just me, we're hard-headed, so we don't take these things on, right? And then when we find them, they become so important. We read a book, and it's like, oh my gosh, and then we just, have this epiphany. We read a book, we go to a retreat, we go to an experience, all these things, and God is just patiently waiting, saying, yeah, I wrote it 3,000 years ago. I've been waiting for you to be able to start to apply it in your life. And so, in verse 1 and 11, he already knows, and when we let him, he will keep us refreshed. So he already knows. He already knows all the things that are coming. Like when Maddox started to talk about this little paper football that was a little triangle, I looked at it and I was like, I know exactly what this is, man. I'm ready to go. But then I let him talk about it because I wanted him to own it and be excited about it. Although then when I started whooping him, then he recognized that Pop's got game. You know what I mean? I think that skill is transferable too. So if you're out there and you're looking for a paper football champion or coach, I'm your guy. I would love to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So in verse 1 and 11, he already knows. And when you let him, He will keep you refreshed always. And imagine this. Imagine if we could be refreshed every single day as we go along. In verse 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 18, 27. And let me tell you this. In these episodes of Inchstones, like what we're doing, which is, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, when this many verses in Proverbs 21, verse 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 18, 17. It just means in my head that point is really, really, really important. And so what he was saying here is what we are doing is not as important as why we're doing it. And we've heard this before. It's cliche kind of things at times, but I tell you, it's amazing because 3,000 years ago, he was saying that I want your heart. I don't want your hands. Your hands doing the things is not as important as why you're doing it, what's in your heart. So he's looking to your heart. And a lot of times as human beings, we're looking to our hands. What did we actually do? What is the results of it? But God is saying, no, I want your heart. And once I can grab your heart, I'll align your mind, I'll align your hands, I'll align the heart, I'll align the mind, I'll align the skills, and then the vibe will become irresistible. In verse 4, comparison and ego aren't a good combo. It's written 3,000 years ago, right? We learned this. We read a book and we're like, oh man, this person blew my mind. This TED Talk blew my mind. And God is saying it didn't blow my mind because I wrote it 3,000 years ago. And when I say most, all of the things that you're hearing or that you're learning are based off the principles there. But I want you to uncover them, as you go, and I'm patient with you. So in verse 5, 9, 15, and 19, doing right work brings peace. Busy work leads to exhaustion. Sit in that for a second while we go on to verse 16, 17, 20, 24, and 29. Small steps in the right direction rather than huge leaps of silliness. I wrote this in my Substack today. I put a note in and I just wrote that down, and I just put a picture of the beach. If you're not with us on Substack, go ahead and check it out. It's the link in the bio. You guys will love it. It's incredible. But think of that, small steps in the right direction rather than huge leaps of silliness. In verse 21, 25, 26, doing the right thing in love will bring prosperity and honor. How many of us don't want prosperity and honor? Prosperity in anything that you do in the event that you do the right thing in love. And what is the right thing? How can we know what that right thing is? Well, we got to be in touch with God, right? We got to be in touch with God and our Creator, because He'll let us know the right thing at the right time. Because it's not about the ritual or the religion. It's about the relationship, and a relationship is constantly fresh, and He'll keep you fresh when you're connected to Him. So in verse 22, wisdom will break barriers. So where we find that there's barriers or strongholds in our life that we seemingly they can't be dropped, what will happen is when we apply wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge, and the place where we get that is the fear of God. The fear of God is just the respect of God. And how do we respect anything? We just spend time with Him, and we see that their words and actions are in line. And once that happens, we have respect. Once we have a respect for God, then He brings wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge. Once He brings that wisdom in, and we have the right use of knowledge, then He can apply knowledge, and He can bring understanding and insight and discretion, and then discernment, and then discipline, and then strength, and bring us right back to the respect of God, which will give us more wisdom. Bang, bang, biggity, bang, right? So in verse 23, speak life in all situations. This was a thing that my pop said to me all the time. Boy, they will only react the way that you react. So speak life to them. And if you speak life to them, what you'll start to see is people around you start to speak life to each other, and then people start to lift people up. And it's incredible when this happens. And here we go. In verse 28, listen hard and speak soft. It's written 3,000 years ago. In verse 30, truth is truth whether you believe it or not. What God is saying is like, it's been there. Like, you may be discovering it, but it just means that you're uncovering something that's already there. And he's very patient with us. He's not patronizing us, anything like that. He's very patient with us. But just like my son, finding out about this paper football or this finger football that we were playing yesterday for an hour in the bathroom, which brought so much joy to me. It was so incredible to be able to spend that time with my son. And I tell you, it felt good that he was like, Dad, I didn't realize that you were this good. Boy, you better recognize. Bring on all your friends. I'll show them all how we do things around here. But truth is truth, whether you believe it or not. And what God's waiting on you and he's patient is just to believe it. Just believe it. In verse 31, wisdom is patient, and when it becomes important to you, it will kick into gear. So God is so patient with us. And he will allow us to go wherever we need to go to be able to learn whatever we need to learn. But what's amazing is when we learn it, which I'm turning 50 next year, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm having these epiphanies and all these things. And God is like, it's not news to me. When Maddox showed me that little paper football, it wasn't news to me. I was just like, yeah, let's go, boy. Let's do it now because now you're aware of it. It's important to you. So let's go. Last night on the bathroom floor, flicking a folded up piece of paper brought overwhelming joy to me. Not only did I get to spend time with my 13-year-old son, I got to show him that his dad still has all the game. See, God is waiting for us to discover all the games that he created so he could show us that he is the Sigma with all of the Riz. My daughter is probably going to turn the podcast off just because I said those two words, my son too. But I tell you, lock in today. Read Proverbs 21 today. It has so much wisdom inside of it and has so many principles that we can apply in our life today. I want to thank you guys all. We didn't do a drop a podcast yesterday, and the reason why, because we've been working with a little bit of technical issues, things like that, and we just transferred over to hosting it on Substack, which is awesome. So I want to thank all of you. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed already on Substack, and we're going to continue on with that, which will be great. I want to encourage you, if you are starting something new, don't quit before you become proficient at it. Once you become proficient at it, my pops would say, first you gain competence, then you gain confidence, then you can cop an attitude. And, so make sure that you push through. And just because there's a little bit of resistance doesn't mean that it's the wrong thing to do. But the way that we can find out what the right thing is to do is stay in touch with the one who created us in the first place. This has been another episode of Inchstones, Proverbs 21. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. You all are absolutely amazing. I appreciate you more than ever. And thank you for allowing me to show you my handwritten notes in Substack that are imperfect, but I promise you, I will always do them from my heart. Have a wonderful day. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.